It's been about a week since I got my hands on the brand new Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 6. This tiny device promises to bring Samsung's AI tech to its foldable lineup and, a few other key bonuses along the way. Folding phones in general are at this weird point in technology where it's technically feasible to make them work, but under a lot of circumstances, the juice is very rarely worth the squeeze. However, I have very much liked the Z Flips in the past. Here's my Z Flip 5. And I was very excited to purchase this latest model, which brings up the point that Samsung is not sponsoring this video. No one provided, loaned, or sent me this phone. I purchased it with my own money, along with the Galaxy Watch Ultra, Buds Pro, and the Galaxy Ring. Speaking of purchasing, let's quickly cover the specs and purchasing options if this is your first time watching a video about the Z Flip 6. I promise to not close it and open it at every statement. The base model phone comes in at a pretty steep price of $1099. During the initial pre-order window, you can get the upgraded 512GB model for the same base model price, but it's not going to hold forever. The lowest end base model comes with 256GB of storage, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor, 12GB of RAM, and a 2640 by 1080 Full HD Plus dynamic AMOLED main screen. And not to be forgotten, but this is also housing a 4000 mAh battery. So it's not the cheapest phone, but it does have some legitimate horsepower under the hood. So after almost a solid week of use, what have I liked and disliked? Well, the first thing I like continues to be Samsung's trade-in program. Most major companies do have some kind of a trade-in program anymore, but I really think that Samsung does it the best when you order a new device, you can quickly get an estimated trade-in value taken right off the top of your purchase, and you don't have to send the older device in until you get your newest one in hand. Case in point, I'm sending this back as my trade-in, and I have both right now. I also like that Samsung bundles tech together with discounts at the time of purchase. Tech is moving more towards ecosystems as a whole. I really like the new crafted black color. This looks and feels like other companies' third-party skins. And I gotta be honest, it's like 50% of the reason I even pre-ordered the Z Flip again this year. Now, it's not a protective case per se, but it feels more robust than previous iterations. And just, you set it down, it just looks good. I mean, it doesn't live here, it lives over there, but still looks real good. I try not to let my sense of style sway my opinions too much, because my sense of style is terrible, and it should be the functionality that matters more than appearances, but I mean, real talk, I love how this looks. Kinda sucks that it's a Samsung exclusive color, but honestly, with the discounts and trade-in offers, I'm not sure that I would recommend buying through another retailer unless you had a deal or something through them. I guess I like the outline of this phone more this year. I don't know how to properly explain it, but like the edge of this phone looks incredible. The bezel is grayer, and it really looks awesome. I don't know if that's just the crafted black model. Obviously, that's the only one I have. It looks just so much more high-tech. It's a small thing to like, but it's a very striking difference when you compare the Z Flip 5 and the Z Flip 6. Okay, let's get all of the aesthetic things out of the way first. Something I haven't liked is something I complained about last year. The camera bump, it just looks weird. And it's not so much the camera's fault, but the flippable nature of the phone. Glass slab phones are generally always screen up. You set them down, screen up, so you rarely have to look at the camera. It's true for Samsung, Apple, everybody. Cameras are out of sight and out of mind. But here, they are definitely in sight and in mind. I just wish there was a more elegant way to lay this out so it doesn't look so goofy. But that does lead to something I've continued to like. While there is a selfie camera, I guess you'd call it on the front of the phone, thanks to this front flipping screen, which we will talk about here soon, you never have to use it. This new 50 megapixel camera is essentially both your main camera and your selfie camera at the same time, which is novel and unique to these flippable phones. And yes, we'll continue talking about flippable. How many times can I say flippable in the last couple of seconds? Flippable. Ooh. Back to talking about the camera. I'm not a pixel peeper, and I'm of the opinion that cell phone cameras across the board passed good enough for family photos years ago, so I rarely compare or dive too deep into camera comparisons. But you can tell the difference between a tiny little selfie camera and the relatively giant main cameras. And there are times with both my Galaxies and my iPhones that I wish it was easier to take a selfie, either a video or a photo selfie, with the main camera. And the Z Flip makes that effortless because you can just see all of your preview in this front screen. It's so good. Speaking of that like stand nature of it, let's not leave it unmentioned. I've continued to like the folding capability. There is so much usefulness in having a phone that is not just a phone, but also is its own built-in stand. From watching video to recording video to those meetings I talked about, being able to just set this anywhere and have it be useful without having to like, okay, nope, we're gonna balance it against a book or something. Like, not having to do that is just awesome. I also still like how it feels to use this phone, both in its unfolded and in its folded configuration. That's one thing about other folding phones I've tried in the past that I just don't like. I think they fail at it. It's either too big folded up or it's too small when open, necessitating just having small phones and big tablets. But here, the Z Flip 6 continues to thread the needle of usability. When folded up, it is the smallest phone I have. It's not so wide as to become unwieldy and be like a big phone even closed up. It's also a useful product when folded up. In fact, I still think this is one of the key reasons to buy this phone, is because what you can do with the phone when it's folded up. Look, it is not uncommon for me to reach for my phone to check a quick notification only to then start browsing Reddit or watching a YouTube video or doing something else. And then that quick notification check turns into 15-20 minutes where I got nothing done. The Z Flip isn't exactly like going back to a dumb phone, but I find it easier to check notifications from the front screen and then move back to work or school tasks. Yes, you can run full apps from the front screen, but I find it just inconvenient enough that I'm able to break that force of habit where I instinctively start doing all of that time-wasting nonsense. But open, the phone is great too. I like that it's thinner than most phones, making it easier to hold and easier to manipulate than something like my S24 Ultra or my iPhone 15 Pro Max. I mean, sure, Gary, if you buy a smaller phone, of course it will be easier to hold, but most glass slab phones have roughly the same aspect ratio, or they have the same dimensions to them, where here it's taller and slimmer because it has to fold, which ends up being a shape that I quite like. Something else that I've liked is the fold along the screen. You can you can see it right there. I've complained about this with every iteration of the Z Flip that I've gotten my hands on, and maybe it's my imagination working overtime, but the fold this year seems way less aggressive than it ever has before. Normally, and yeah, you can see it, normally that crease here is very distracting when you're trying to like scroll through the phone. I mean, it doesn't stop you from using it, but it is, I don't know, you can just tell it's there. It drives me personally crazy. But this year, it is so much less pronounced. We'll have to see how this holds up over the next weeks and months of use. Maybe it will eventually crease like previous years. Something I haven't liked and something that I haven't disliked, but I am kind of meh about it still, are the Galaxy AI features. Yes, there's some very cool features as part of this suite. I think the real-time translation that can happen on the front screen is an amazing showcase of how tech can bring us all together. I like the thought of having an assistant to summarize wordy emails, messages, or maybe making my emails not as angry for me. And I like that circling to visually search things in Google. All of that is pretty cool, I'll give you that much. But I don't know that I'm yet sold on AI as the future of consumer technology, or when I say AI and when most people say AI, we're talking about large language models, and we use that term interchangeably. It's fun, it's neat to play around with, but I do think we're quickly approaching the limit of what it can do and the usefulness of it. Sure, that's probably counter to the current hype, but them's the breaks, I guess. Something else that still irritates me and I don't like is the Z Flip continues to be missing DeX mode. That's a huge selling point of Samsung tech for me. I think DeX mode makes the most amount of sense here because of how easily this can fold up and sit right on your desk or in some kind of a custom-made mount maybe. And look, I get it. It folds, it's small, maybe there is heat or thermal performance problems with the phone, but with this strong of a processor and RAM combination, it does seem like a misstep to not include that very unique selling point, but I've complained about it for years. We will not belabor that point today. So after a week of use, I think the Z Flip 6 is a lot more of the existing Z Flip goodness. Yes, there are some pretty good refinements overall. That crease, if that holds true, that's a lot. Like, I cannot overstate how important that is to me. I like the look of the phone way more than previous years. And as we already talked about, folding phones like this have some key benefits over a standard slab glass phone, and this one isn't too bad. Would I recommend the Z Flip 6? Well, it is the best folding phone that I've had a chance to use. So if you are looking for a brand new cutting edge phone that folds in half, yes, I think this is a good, if expensive option. I would only get it if trading in something or taking advantage of a sale though. $10.99 is very steep. Would I recommend going from the Z Flip 5 to the Z Flip 6? Probably not. Much like other tech upgrades, we're now in the more usefully upgrading every 3 to 4 years. So if you are happy with your current Flip, I would probably stick there. But what about you? Do you have or have you considered the new Z Flip 6? Let us all know what you think in the comments below. And if you like this video and you want to see what the new Galaxy Watch Ultra looks like, click right here. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.